I believe that the Purchasing Chessboard is the book that defines me most. Since 2004, I've written or co-authored 5 books on procurement. The Purchasing Chessboard is not the most entertaining of these books. This would clearly be the CPO. And it probably is not the most aspirational of these 5 books. That would for sure be supplier relationship management. But the Purchasing Chessboard for sure is the best known of these books, and it may contain the most hands-on advice. But in this video, I will talk about what the Purchasing Chessboard means to me personally and how it has changed my life. Let's get started. The story of the Purchasing Chessboard actually starts with a different book, the first one I have written. You probably have never heard of it, and it was only published in German. Its title is Der Einkauf als Margenmotor, which roughly translates into procurement as an engine for margin creation. It is an honest-to-God book with lots of case studies. I co-authored it with Michael, who at that point in time was my client and in the meantime has become a friend. The downside of that book was that I had not thought about marketing. I somehow expected that good content alone would sell itself. Oh well, that didn't work out. The good thing though was that it showed me that I'm capable of writing a coherent book that is appreciated by people who happen to stumble over it. The impetus for the Purchasing Chessboard came not long after publishing that first book. In late 2005, we had a meeting of the European operations practice in Düsseldorf, Germany. Part of these meetings in consulting firms is typically a show and tell. The various teams presented tools they had developed and success stories of applying these tools at clients. I was not impressed with what I saw. Typically, 2 or 3 teams had come up with the same idea but gave it a different name and executed it a bit differently. And a lot of the ideas even felt like repackaged versions of tools that had been in use for many years by then. But what really set me off was that some of the teams tried to categorize the tools by their degree of novelty, as if the fact that the tool was new to the consultant had any relevance to the client. Oh, come on. Pretty much immediately after that meeting, we headed into Christmas holidays. That gave me time to figure out a way to come up with a categorization of tools that is relevant from a client's perspective. I tried industry. So do car makers need different tools than banks? Maybe. Maybe they need more tools, but most of the tools the bank needs should also be useful for the car maker. I tried economic situation. Does a company that is growing profitably require other tools than a company that is close to bankruptcy? Not necessarily. So I finally arrived at demand power and supply power. That made sense. And the nice thing was that it was totally intuitive and very much in line with the thinking of business leaders. In January 2006, I had a proto-Chessboard, and we started applying it at clients, cautiously first and more confident later on. And I don't quite remember why it took us nearly 2 years to progress from the proto-Chessboard to the real thing. It was a busy time with lots of travel between Austria, the US and the UK, but still. Anyway, the next milestone was January 3rd, 2008. On that day, Alenka, Michael, Robert, Ramon and I locked ourselves in the meeting room in Linz, Austria. And on that remarkable day, we populated the Purchasing Chessboard. We went into that meeting in the morning with an empty grid of 64 squares, and we emerged at the end of the day with the Purchasing Chessboard as you know it. Not a single square has been changed since January 3rd, 2008. And believe me, the logic was pressure tested by our colleagues. From there, things progressed rapidly. We had a white paper ready for publication by February, and the book almost wrote itself. So maybe all this waiting over 2 years really helped ruminating over the topic. I also didn't repeat the mistake of my first book. I designed a catchy cover, and we advertised the book quite heavily on airports. The financial crisis had made advertising really cheap, and we had gigantic billboards hanging in Frankfurt Airport, for example. And we also published the book simultaneously in German and in English. And by the way, for all the later editions and subsequent books, we switched to English entirely. So anyway, the purchasing chessboard turned out to be a huge success. The nice thing is that whenever I go see a new client, chances that they're at least somewhat familiar with the purchasing chessboard. Well, now to the life-changing part. In 2010-11, executives at the PC maker read the purchasing chessboard. Then they invited me to the headquarters in the US to introduce the chessboard to the leadership team. The fascinating aspect was that they gave me a couple of real-life problems they had. At first I didn't understand anything. I had to Google technical terms and the names of suppliers, but somehow the raw logic of the purchasing chessboard enabled me to challenge the way they did business with their suppliers and suggest better ways of doing things. The PC guys appeared to like it. I got to work on reducing the cost of the current generation personal computers in China. Then we turned to the cost of the next generation servers in the US, and we got into the huge supplier factories in China. And finally, increasingly into the headquarters of suppliers and the one with the focus on engineering efficiency and product architectures. So the purchasing chessboard switched my industry focus from car makers to the high-tech industry. Initially, this was tough. Everything in high-tech feels 4 times faster than in the automotive industry. But this need for speed forced me to come up with new approaches and frameworks. Prominent among these is the Pareto approach, with its key mantra of getting closer to suppliers. And the purchasing chessboard still features strongly in the Pareto approach as the key element for B suppliers. If you're interested in the Pareto approach, you will find a link in the video description down below. And the Pareto approach got me back into automotive 2.5 years ago. I could not have picked a better point in time. With automotive and high-tech rapidly converging, it is not an either or for me anymore. I can work in both industries at a car maker and I couldn't be happier. So I'm very grateful for the purchasing chessboard as it has opened a lot of doors for me. And I would like to give back to the community of procurement people all over the world. One of the ideas I'm contemplating is to do a comprehensive series of videos in which I explain the purchasing chessboard in depth. This would ensure all of you to take full advantage of the chessboard and the underlying thinking. In the comments down below, let me know if this is something you would be interested in. If you are, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss future videos. Thank you for watching and I see you in the next one. Bye!